moving in, and you could see no obstruction, nothing in front. So this was the best moment of the whole trip to see. Normally they would be inside all the grass and you cannot take good photos, but this was really a wonderful moment. So I saw 3 on that occasion, which is 1.5% of the world population, which is in a way very sad, but also quite special. As you can see it a little bit closer up, but fantastic bird, but very shy. Often when we were sitting inside the hide, at a distance we could hear motorbikes passing by, and a lot of the birds they would just take off. There's not a lot of hunting pressure inside Western Sempang, but as soon as you get outside, it is probably not very good news. So a lot of these birds are very shy. Any light, any movement or anything, they would just disappear. So that was 2 of the critically endangered species: the white-shouldered ibis and the giant ibis. The 3 others were vultures, which I'm sure you know. The vulture population in Southeast Asia and South Asia is probably 3, 4, 5% of the original population 30 years ago. So the populations has been decimated in Southeast Asia, mainly because there's not enough food for them. So the number of wild undulates that die in the wild are very few. They have all been hunted, so there's simply in many countries not enough food. Therefore in Cambodia, BirdLife International, they buy a dead cow from the local village twice a month, and then they put it out. In a designated place, and then the vultures come. So number 1, they get some good supplementary food, and number 2, of course, they can do counting, and they can study the vultures when they come. This is near what they call a vulture restaurant, and this is a red-headed vulture, critically endangered. When they put the cow out for the first the first day, nothing happened. The vultures started to come, and as you have seen on the pictures, they sit in the trees all, and they are just looking down on the dead cow, right? But more often than not, it takes them more than 24 hours before they actually go down and eat. Not sure whether they want to make sure that the cow is dead, or they want to make sure there are no predators around. Anyhow, in this case, they put it out in the morning, and only the following lunchtime the next day did they actually come in. And once they dive in, it's a matter of 1 hour or 2 hours. The cow, apart from bones and whatever, and some of the hides, it's gone. You can see that here. This is a huge. It's a huge feeding frenzy. Here you can see the white-rumped and the slender-billed as well. I had hoped I could get 3 critically endangered vultures into one photo, but I didn't succeed. Right? But anyhow, it was quite an interesting experience. We also did a trip. There's a river going through Western Sempang, and we saw the green peafowl, which used to be very common, but again, because of hunting now, it is classified as endangered and not easy to see at all. Let us move over to Vietnam. This is same family as appear on the front page of the book. I think this is, to me, the most striking and beautiful primate in Asia, the Red-shanked Douc Langur. They have 4 different colors. It's just a wonderful primate. If you don't have time to go to Vietnam, you can actually see it in Singapore Zoo. They have actually been breeding them quite successfully for quite a number of years. They are still being hunted. Unfortunately, when when they see human beings, most other primates, they would run away, but these fellows are quite curious, so they just stay there and watch. And of course, if poachers are around, they are a very easy target. The Kino Trong Forest Reserve is a forest reserve where BirdLife's partner in Vietnam, Viet Nature, they have bought a 30-year scientific lease. So they are permitted inside the forest area to conduct whatever scientific studies that they want. The big idea is that outside this area, together with the government, they will increase the number of patrols, they will increase the number of rangers in the area, and they will also assist with purchase of motorbikes, communication equipment, so they can monitor. Poaching is a huge problem in Vietnam. It is mainly snares on the ground, which whatever walks by, whether it is a deer or a rare bird, they will be caught and they will die. So this is a huge problem in Vietnam, and they actually on any patrol they literally take hundreds of snares for every patrol. So this is a big area, but Viet Nature in Vietnam they will increase the number of patrol. The purpose is to secure an area, and maybe later on they can reintroduce some species that otherwise would not be safe there. This is a normal hornbill. This is a male Edwards pheasant. I would challenge anybody. Have you seen this one in the wild? Ding Li, you are probably the one who has seen most. Have you seen it in the wild?
I think I saw a photo for the first time in the book. So.
Yeah. The last sighting was in year 2000. So and in Vietnam. So it could very well be extinct in the wild. Luckily, they have a good, successful breeding program in Vietnam and a couple of places in Europe. So the idea is, if they can secure a forest area, and make it safe, that they will try to reintroduce this pheasant maybe in 5 years' time, or whenever they consider it safe. So this will be an interesting story to follow. Our last stop will be Malaysia. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Malaysia. Forest of Hope in Malaysia is Belum Temengor Forest Reserve. We visited there. It's one and a half year ago. Stayed at the local orang asli inside in the middle of the forest complex, and we were so lucky. 2 weeks before we came, the local orang asli had actually located a helmeted hornbill nest, and this was the only record of a helmeted hornbill nest in Asia at that particular time. And as you are probably aware, it was, I think, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, it was uplifted from vulnerable up to critically endangered, because they discovered there was a very heavy trade in their casts. This is solid, a type of ivory. So there was an export out of Kalimantan to China and Vietnam, I think around 500 casks a month. So it was only a matter of time in Kalimantan before this species will no longer be there. So we were very happy that we could actually photograph this this wonderful bird in Malaysia. It's very rarely. I've traveled quite intensively over more than 10 years. I've seen it once in Borneo, where I saw a family, and I've seen this one here. That's it, but it's a really wonderful bird. You can see it here. You can see it's all prehistoric prehistoric looking, unlike any other bird species, and at least I know. You can see it's regurgitating some foods here. The female is inside the hole, so when they come in, it's quite an interesting study to see, but again very shy. We had, or the Malaysian Nature Society had arranged to build a hide at quite a distance, so we really had to take a long lens and keep, technically it was quite difficult to get good photos here because it was a long distance from the nesting hole, obviously because we didn't want to disturb any of the nesting activity. But really we spent 4 days there, and it would only come to the nest 3-4 times a day, so it was not a very frequent visitor. On one occasion we had to leave the hide because there was a male elephant that was getting very close, so we had to scamper down to the lake into the boat and go off. On the second day there was a group of macaques inside the same tree, so we knew that the hornbill would not come there. But it's really a fantastic bird. You can hear it sort of half a minute or a minute before the wing, like with many of the other hornbills. You can really hear it from a long distance. Leopards they have up there, the melanistic leopards, which is the one with the black coat, are the only one to be found in this particular park, according to WWF. And this is probably a good thing for the leopards because the black skin is not attractive for the fur trade. They like the normal spotted one. So these fellows are probably quite safe. But I think this is much more striking than the normal leopards that you come across. There's a very young siaman, also endangered. You can see it's very wet. It was caught in the rain when we took this picture. We will have a few birds now. Banded kingfisher, wonderful when you see a male and female together, but when you see them with what we call food in mouth at the same time, this is a real bonus. But beautiful pair. I didn't mention earlier, but Belong Temenggor is probably the only place in the world where they actually have 10 species of hornbill. Borneo, that are many times bigger, only have 8 species. So this is really quite a unique thing. Malaysian Nature Society have had a hornbill project going for many years, and they have accumulated a lot of knowledge on this particular subject. I will just show you the 10 hornbills. This is like in Singapore and most other places, this is the most common one. We have the black hornbill, the male, and the female. Wrinkled hornbill, male. Great hornbill, also quite common, both in many parts of Peninsular Malaysia. You can find them in many parts of Asia. Wreathed hornbill, also sitting near the nesting hole. Bushy-crested hornbill, they are resting for the night. If you try to count the bills, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you count the tails, there are 6 tails. So somebody must be hiding. But they often stay in small families. So if the female is inside and having chicks, they all come and they all assist feeding the female. Rhinoceros hornbill, also very common in Temenggor. Plain pouch hornbill, very common in Temenggor. It's one of the only places in the world where they have counted up to 2,000 or 3,000 at one particular time. late afternoon they go into their roosting sites. Nobody have ever found where they spend the night, but you can see them on the sky. And I think a few years back they counted a couple of thousand in one particular time. And we were up there, we only saw a dozen at a time, not that many, but and they have not found it breeding yet up there, but they have found places in Thailand where you can also find it where it is breeding. White crown, hornbill, female, you can see it, lovely hairstyle. The last one again, this is a female helmeted hornbill. You can see it's different, the casque is smaller as well. Finally, there was a team that helped us in Malaysia. We stayed. This was where we stayed. This was normally there during the daytime. This was their school, but at night time we got a corner of the classroom to sleep in there. Sorry. Yeah, let's just see. Yeah. So that concludes my presentation. I think if you have any questions or I will be, if they're very difficult and scientific, then I'll pass them over to Deng Li, right? I'll take all the easy ones, right? So,
yeah. So I guess Bjorn has achieved something really unique here, and I wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate him to put together this publication where you have a kaleidoscope of all the different sites across tropical Asia. I don't think this has been achieved before. You could go to Kinokuniya tomorrow and scan the shelves, and I can guarantee you that there are no such books in the market that features such a diverse array of wildlife on Asia. So let us give him a great round of applause.